So we are getting into the season of circumcision in the Bukusu culture.
You are not a Bukusu if you are not circumcised. In the event of a death, how these people determine that you are part of them is that they examine to see whether you underwent the knife or not.
Hi guys, how have you been? How is your evening? How is your afternoon? How is your morning, depending on where you're watching us from? My name is Deborah Kisongoji, and this is my safe space on Number One TV and on our YouTube channel. And guys, as you know, we are here at Del Suits in Bungoma County, and they give us an amazing space where we can create content and share with you inspirational stories from Bungoma County and around the world. So guys, today, as usual, we are here and we are bringing you a story, an inspiration, of course. That is what we do here at my safe space. And today I have a guru on matters culture in Bungoma County. And guys, as you know, if you're a Bukusu, you know we are entering some period. And today I have a guru on board who's going to tell us what happens around this period, and is there any changes that have come on board now that times are changing in the world. So guys, as per usual, I want to give him an opportunity to introduce himself. Daktari, karibu. Ndio watu wajue ni daktari wa mitimbao, daktari wa wanyama.
Thank you so much,
Karibu.
Debbie. Thank you for having me on, is it my space or
my
safe
space?
space?
My safe space.
Oh, your safe space. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm Dr. Wakoko, Makarios Wakoko. I'm a linguist.
Yes.
I'm a lecturer at Kibabi University in the Department of English, Literature, Journalism, and Mass Communication. Apart from that, I'm also a Bukusu Elder.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for coming to my safe space. I think today on my safe space, we are going to look at the Bukusu Elder part.
Yeah, sure.
You're not
sure.
okay. What defines an elder?
Well, anyone that is above 40 years of age, culturally is an elder. The people who go to war are between the ages of 18 up to 40. Once you go beyond 40, you stop going to war, you cannot be a warrior, then you become an elder. Yes.
But Doctor, you've told us you are a professional who is a linguistic.
A linguist.
A linguist.
Yes.
Wow.
People who practice linguistics are called linguists.
Linguists.
Yes.
Wow, we learn every day.
Thank you.
So did this change your perspective about culture in any way?
Of course it did. I've just told you that I'm a specialist in linguistics,
Yeah.
but I've studied the English language. The history of the English language spans many years, from 1099 AD. And you know, you cannot study a language of a people without studying their culture.
True.
Therefore, those studies that I have done in the English language have influenced how I perceive my own culture, that is Bukusu culture.
Yeah.
First of all, you know, there is a way in which people have viewed culture as something that is supposed to be hidden, especially if you look at it in terms of how it interacts with religions, especially the Western religions.
Yeah.
Sometimes they are called the Greco-Roman religions.
Yes.
People imagine that ours are inferior, and therefore we are not supposed to foreground them, to put them before visitors.
Yes,
we are supposed to hide them. But once I discovered that the British, the English are very proud of their culture, I started asking myself, why not dig deep into my culture too? And therefore I used the strategies that the English used in studying and building their culture and documenting it to also start documenting Bukusu culture.
Wow.
Yes. So definitely there has been a change in perception in the manner in which I see my culture.
Wow.
I'm proud of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm also Bukusu and I'm proud of my culture.
Thank you.
But again, now you've talked about documentation of our culture.
Yes.
What aspects of documentation are you using to document our culture?
Well, the commonest way of documenting a culture is having written works.
Yes.
We used to have an oral culture for very many years. Whatever that we have in our culture is documented, but orally, in what literary scholars would call orature.
Yes.
But you know, the danger of losing oral culture is very easy, because once you lose an elder, then they go away with that library.
True.
So unless you sit down and write, document some of those things through the written medium, then you can see we run the danger of losing that kind of heritage. Yes. So we write.
Are you not afraid that the generation that is coming in right now, let's call them the Gen Z, the Gen Alpha that are coming, are you not afraid that they will no longer read books? Maybe they will be more on the internet, maybe listening, maybe to audiobooks. Personally, I prefer audiobooks to listen to audiobooks. When I'm doing something else, I can still listen to a book.
Yes.
Is there a way your documentation is going in that direction to make sure that
definitely. You know, we are moving with the times. Unless you don't want to change, of course, you'll be considered irrelevant in whatever space that you are in.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I was looking at a certain app on the internet called Speechify, that this time around, you don't need to carry around a textbook to revise for exams. That book can be changed into an audio so that as you drive, as you do your other work, you are listening to the audio version of that book. And therefore, as we go forward, we may write fine, but to make it attractive for the generations that are coming, the Gen Z, the Alpha generation, and so forth, we have to get audiobooks. And you know, audiobooks are not new. They have been around for a very long period of time. Look at the Advanced Oxford Learner's Dictionary. Normally, they have the hard copy paperback. Then they also have a CD type so that you can slot it into a machine, it plays. You get to hear what it is in the dictionary. So it's not a very new thing. We are going that direction.
Wow,
Yes,
wow.
yeah.
That's amazing. So the main reason why we are here today on My Safe Space is because we are in the Bukusu culture. And as you said, you're a love of culture. I also love culture. That's why I decided to bring this segment here today on Number One TV and on our My Safe Space on YouTube. So we are getting into the season of circumcision in the Bukusu culture.
Yes.
Maybe you just give us a small background of what really happens around August in an even year. I'm told it's totally uneven year alone.
Yes.
So maybe you can just give us an insight of really what happens around this space.
Now, one of the proudest forms of expression among the Bukusu is through circumcision.
Okay.
You, especially a male, you are not a Bukusu if you are not circumcised. And if you do not undergo the circumcision ritual, then chances of being considered an outsider are very high. That is why many times in the event of a death, how these people determine that you are part of them is that they examine to see whether you underwent the knife or not. That
when
is
you
how
are
it's
dead?
done. Yes, when you are dead. And if you are past that age of, like for instance, you are beyond the teens, because normally we circumcise teens. Beyond the teens, every Bukusu is supposed to be circumcised. Even those who come to live among the Bukusu. For them to be accepted within the community, they are also asked, of course, without coercing, to get circumcised. So what I'm saying is that circumcision is also integral, a part of it, that if there is any aspect of culture that has not been eroded by the Western civilization, it is circumcision. To an extent, then even those people who are so Christianized, so westernized, they circumcise their children. Yes. Maybe it is only the mode of circumcision that has changed. People go to hospitals, and for over the years, we have learned to accept that whether circumcision is done in hospital or at home, it is still considered circumcision. In the 80s and 90s, there used to be a lot of discrimination. If you went to hospital, you would be ostracized. If you went to hospital, you would be excluded from certain practices. In fact, you would not be allowed to take part in the circumcision ceremonies. You wouldn't. But this time round, you would get people who went to hospital. They also officiate at the circumcision ceremonies. They sing at the circumcision ceremonies. They give counsel to the initiates. And therefore, you can see that is how we have been transforming. But the most important thing is that circumcision is so integral a thing among the Bukusu that it is not dying anytime now.
Doctor, you had mentioned that you circumcise teens.
Yes.
But in the world of today, I've seen parents who even circumcising children at birth or at a very young age.
That is a misnomer. It is a misnomer because to call it a culture, then there has to be guidelines that are supposed to be followed. If you want to start practicing Jewish culture, you know, those are the ones who circumcise children at the age of maybe... Is it in a matter of days? Their children are circumcised. The reason we circumcise ours is that it is a transition. You're moving from childhood into adulthood. How do you tell a 6-month-old, a 1-month-old that they are now adults? There has to be, because it is not just the cut alone. That is one thing that people have forgotten. Circumcision is a ritual. It is an elaborate ritual that begins in April and goes on up to December. Rituals are being undertaken. It begins with the child, first of all, informing the grandfather that they think they are ready. They would like to be circumcised.
It's the child to decide that they are ready.
Yes, it's the child to decide that they are ready. The reason they decide is because the cut is a painful affair. You unless you are ready, you cannot face the knife very easily. In fact, some of the metaphors that they use, one of them is that is stepping on the ice. That you tell people, I'm a man, I stood on the axe, sorry, not ice.
Yeah.
That means you encountered pain and you overcame pain, and therefore anything that happens to you in your life, you would be in a position to overcome, you would be in a position to surmount it. One of the things that I would like to draw your attention to is the Bukusu Circumcision anthem called Sio Yaye. If you look at the real lyrics of that song, you will discover that it's a song that was carefully arranged. In Europe, they talk about songwriters who do beautiful songs.
Yeah.
That was a song beautifully written, because you have expressions like you know, you are telling the initiate that he's going home from the river.
Yeah.
But there are people home waiting to see him become a man. And once he gets home, they expect him to afuliacha mengasia naholo. Naholo is a white and black bird with a long tail that dances with a lot of flamboyance. So they expect that in the facing of the knife, the young man, the initiate, will also be flamboyant. You are not supposed to cringe. You are not supposed to show like you are feeling pain. It is what the Confucianists or the Chinese call stoicism. Suffering without showing the world that you are suffering. You are supposed to be stoic. Over the years, there is something that people have been calling, we refer to it as mental health.
I was actually about to ask you that.
Stress, and so forth. Once you take an initiate through the process of pain, beginning day one, when they walk around inviting visitors, they are rained on, they walk in the sun, in the scorching sun, sometimes they play the bells without even eating. You know, they are being prepared for the difficult parts of life. And you know, life is very difficult. It has very many challenges. So if you are not very well prepared, chances are you will cry during the cut. But you know, in the anthem, they are being told, Wangwe maalule kahulindile. Wangwe is from the leopard. A leopard is a Bukusu totem. It is an animal that is respected. It is a ritual animal. And you know, a leopard is fierce. But you know, the young man is being told, you're going home, but in the courtyard, a leopard is waiting for you. But he still walks. In fact, they don't walk home. They normally run home. Unless you restrain them, they run home. There's perhaps a spirit or something. We have not determined what it is. But it is not something that you will say, somebody is pushing them. Normally, there are people who say you are torturing children. We don't torture.
Actually, Dr. I was about to ask, because in the life of today, we are telling men should be expressive, they should express themselves, they are allowed even to cry.
Yes.
But now the culture is telling them, you cannot cry, you are a man. You are not supposed to show that there's fear in you at this stage. Does it mean that at this circumcision stage is where now a man is being told a man should not do this, a man should not do this? And do you think it affects their mental health after these are mental health in your Gen Z?
Now, I would like to draw your attention to the training of the military.
Yes.
The National Youth Service.
Yes.
It is not a walk in the park. Those people are tested. And they test your mental resolve. And therefore, a human being generally, since we know that the world has very many trials and tribulations, is not supposed to be wishy-washy. That means you're supposed to be determined to face obstacles, to face challenges and so forth. And that is why they go through that kind of training, that kind of initiation. It's because we know that life has very many challenges. And therefore, the matter of mental health does not even arise, because human beings must be ready to deal with the difficulties. You don't run away most of the time. Of course, the human instinct is that when you see danger, you take flight. But there is also an instinct that tells you fight. That is why we have occupied lands. We fought to occupy the land that we live on. We did not run away. And therefore, it is not a molestation, it is not a mistreatment, it is an initiation that is worth it. The little matter of mental health is not that we are telling people not to complain. No, people should voice concerns when they have them. There is some mistreatment that is beyond ordinary. you are supposed to speak out.
True.
Speak up.
Yeah.
And there are many avenues. Within the Bukusu culture, again, people have been given an opportunity in case of anything to speak out during barazas. People speak.
Yeah.
They are told if there is anything, there is the Zulu call it an indaba. The small meetings that people have around a beer pot.
Yes, yes.
In Bukusu, it's called ekokwa.
Yes.
Ekokwa. Niyo halinende water olianende ohukutile.
Yeah.
It is a small private affair that is normally used for sharing the nitty-gritties of the lives of men. If you have a problem, that is at the beer pot is when you tell fellow elders that this is what I'm undergoing, and you can be sure you get help.
For
so
sure.
we are not about to entertain the story that we tell people not to speak out. No, that's not the story.
Wow. Wow.
You have these people, what are they called? The Buddhists.
Yes, Buddhists, yeah.
There's somebody called His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the Dalai Lama,
Yeah.
the spiritual leader of Tibet.
Yeah.
Tibet is one country that has been a slave, not necessarily a colony of China, since 1948. The spiritual leader, the Dalai Lama, stays in India, but their country is in China.
China, yeah.
And you know, he has been a slave all this time, but he did not commit suicide. Instead, he's the person who teaches people the art of happiness. If you want to understand how people should be happy, then follow the Dalai Lama. So I'm basically telling you that suffering does not necessarily mean that people must end their life or give up in life and so forth. There is suffering that is worth it. However, I don't want to call Bukusu circumcision a suffering because people do it of their own volition. They accept to undergo the cut, so there is no suffering there.
Wow.
Yes.
What about now these kids who are being circumcised at a very tender age? Are they accepting to it, or it's just they wake up one day, they're taken to hospital?
Of course, that is wrong because a child is supposed to make a decision. They first of all must understand why the ritual is undertaken. If they don't understand, why are you even taking it? Why are you exposing them to such kind? In fact, that is molestation. That is child abuse. A child must understand the reason why they are undergoing a cut. Why should you circumcise a kid who is 3 years old? Then the mother continues bathing. You change. You know, it is an abomination that a circumcised man is being dressed by the mother. It is wrong.
Daktari, hold that truth. Guys, we are here and things are getting hot. And as you can see, we are talking matters culture, the Bukusu culture. As you know, we are getting into the August season where circumcision is coming in. And we've brought on board Daktari Makarios to help us understand our Sisi Gen Zs and others who don't understand the Bukusu culture, what happens around it. Thank you so much for staying here at Number One TV and on my safe space on our YouTube channel. We are still here with Daktari Makarios. He's giving us more insights into the Bukusu culture on matters circumcision. Daktari, we were really intense on some point before we went into a small commercial break to pay some bills. So you were saying if a child is circumcised at a young age, it's molestation.
That is molestation because the reason we circumcise is for transition.
Yeah.
We transit from childhood to adulthood. And now the other stage that we wait for is marriage. And many times marriage normally happens after initiation.
Yes.
In the olden days, people would be circumcised at the age of 16, 17, 18, even 20.
Yeah.
So that once you are done, then you are ready to start a family.
Yes.
That is the next step that one takes.
Yes, yes.
However, it is different these days because people stay in school longer. They have to look for how to pay bills and so forth. So people are delaying up to maybe 30 or so forth.
To get married.
But the importance of circumcising people is a transition. Yes. Yeah. So when you expose your child to such, then it cannot be called any other name. It is molestation.
Doctor, I remember in 2020, COVID-19 was really on the peak of it, and it affected the circumcision rituals or is it season.
Yes.
Do you think it had an impact on the culture, the Bukusu culture?
Yeah, of course it did, especially that particular year, because the reason people engage in the circumcision ceremonies is for fellowship. Like they tell people in church, if you get saved, find a church where you go to fellowship so that your spirit continues growing, or your faith, actually.
True faith,
So COVID had restrictions, and therefore people would not come together. So we lost the whole point of a celebration.
Yes.
A celebration is not a celebration unless you have people partying, singing, dancing, drinking, and all manner of things.
Yes.
So COVID, of course, did affect, but once we were out of COVID, I think we're still into the party. However, there is another element that is cropping up.
Yes.
Many times people are always talking about the economy and so forth. The Bukusu used to be very rich.
Oh, yes.
Very rich.
Yeah.
In fact, we were a pastoral community in terms of, apart from farming, doing the farm and so forth, we were very good at animal husbandry. And therefore, it didn't even require you to buy an animal for, you just go to your kraal, pick one, and it was not one normally, because there is one that you slaughter to appease the ancestors.
Yes.
There is another one that you will slaughter for the what is it called? The necklace that the young man wears.
Yeah, true.
Then there is another one that you will slaughter that you will use to give your age mates. There are people I was circumcised with in 1990. They are my Wakoki.
Yes.
So if I have a son, I'm circumcising a son, then I'm supposed to slaughter an animal and distribute the meat to my age mates. And by so doing, they bless my child. Everybody around here looks for blessings.
Yeah.
So we are not going to stop people from blessing our children just because you don't want to slaughter an animal.
Doctor, you said that during this process of circumcision, there's pain. There's some pain you feel as a man.
Definitely, there is pain.
Yes, but right now, as we're talking, technology has gone overboard, and there's painless circumcision right now.
Oh, yes.
Which is, parents are opting for that.
Yes.
They don't want their kids to go through pain. What is your view on that?
I talked about the circumcision anthem that says,
yeah.
Wangwe maalule kahulindile.
Yeah.
The person who circumcises, the surgeon,
yeah.
I call him the ritual surgeon because he doesn't go to school to study how to do that operation.
True.
Somehow or other, he's inducted into the system. That person is likened to a leopard. But you see, we are urging the young man to rush home and get cut. Why is that the case? It's because we want the young man to experience whatever pain there is, and it is normally an indicator that life has such kind of things. When you cannot pay a loan and auctioneers come to your home to carry furniture, to carry your TV, that should be something that would happen in life.
Yeah, true.
So it is pain. And of course, there are various facets of pain. There is mild pain, there is chronic pain,
Extreme.
there is whatever.
Yeah.
I think they go up to 3 levels or so.
Yeah.
So we don't consider that as pain because we are basically preparing you for life.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. Actually, so as we try to wind up, you see our time is running. So let's say, for example, we are getting into this period.
Yes.
You've said the stages preparation. You had mentioned one where it starts in April.
Yes.
Maybe just you give us in maybe 2 minutes how the process, what are the stages that are done before
the
we
reason
get
I
to
said it begins
December.
in April is because when you are preparing to receive visitors in the home, and these are visitors you don't invite using an invitation card.
Yes.
Once they hear the song, they come in and you have to serve them with food. You have to serve them with beer. You have to give them a place to sleep.
Yeah.
You need to begin preparations early enough. In fact, it goes even earlier than April because you have to inform the uncles of your son that they will come here for a bull. So the uncle must look for the bull to give the son. This bull does not come from anywhere. Why do people pay dowry? Sorry. Why do they pay dowry? They pay dowry. You will eat the animals. But believe you me, when the time for your nephew's circumcision comes, you must
from the dowry.
Pay back from the dowry. Therefore, you must prepare that person. In April, we are talking about looking for perhaps maize, millet, all those things.
Food.
Yes, food. So you have ample time to do all these kind of things. You are supposed to prepare the homestead. You don't want people to come to your home. The walls are peeling. You don't have enough furniture. You don't have good bedding. You get that? So the preparation runs into April, May, June. And by late June, the boys are running around doing practice.
True.
Because the real night before the circumcision day it is really a strenuous exercise. It is like physical exercise that requires endurance.
Yeah.
If you want to run a marathon, you must practice more hours. In fact, maybe 20 times the time you'll spend on a 10-mile or 20-mile marathon. So they have to do that practice.
Yeah.
If you don't, then you can even collapse during that night. I remember when my time, I was in Form 1.
Yeah.
So I left school on Thursday. So I did a little invitation.
Yes.
By Sunday, I was going to my uncle's place. Not Sunday, on Thursday, on
Yeah.
Friday
Yeah.
to my uncle's place.
Yeah.
Then that Friday evening, I have to dance the whole night. I reached a place at around 2 a.m. I could not even stand. People were just holding me. The back was because I had not practiced enough.
Yeah.
And of course, the following day, miraculously, I was able to run. You know,
Wow.
when you see the courtyard, that is where I'm going to be finished from.
Yes,
You get,
run,
yes,
yeah.
you run. Now, it is a process. After the circumcision is done, again, there is another ritual that happens in December.
Yeah.
Now, this one makes you a bona fide member of the community. That is where secrets of the community are shared. And you share this with people who are now adults. You cannot share the secrets of a community with a child who is 2 years or 3 years of age. So people say, "Omwana wange hakaluha."
Yeah.
Omwana wekimya kitarwanya hakaluha. So you'll forgive us, but you know there are things that we cannot, express in English. Yes. So there's an expression
Yeah.
in Lubukusu that embalu
Yeah.
yakanananga evalo.
Yes.
The manner in which the circumcision cut is done,
Yeah.
it is not cutting the way you cut bread or the way you chop sukuma wiki. There is a manner in which it is done, and depending on the type of child that you are circumcising. If a child is an only child, again, you don't do the cut in one fell swoop. You have to keep chopping like 3 times. The reason we do that is a lone child is a delicate child. These are children that don't go to war. In the olden times, such a child would not be enlisted or conscripted into the army.
A lone child.
Because normally, if there is anybody who will die,
Yeah.
it is the lone children that normally die. And they even say, omwana omutelwa achoelanga mululemo. There is a huge pot. In times of war, lone children would be hidden in those pots, so that if the community mobilizers are moving around, rounding up young men to
taking
go
strong
to war,
boys.
yes, that one would not go. So the manner of circumcising is also determined by the type of child. If the child is a twin, mulongo and muhwana,
Yeah.
there is a special way again of circumcising them. If the child belongs to a parent, a father who passed on,
Yes.
there is a special way in which they are treated. If a child is a firstborn, a lastborn, there is also a special treatment that they are given. And you know, these things are within our indigenous knowledge that we have disregarded. There are people who walk around here, they have the knowledge,
Yeah.
but perhaps we have not bothered
Yeah.
to pick it.
True.
Normally, it makes a lot of sense when we learn why some of those things are done. So I mentioned that embalu yakana nangevalo, meaning the knife must meet an equally strong person, an equally sharp person, and equally a person who is properly prepared.
Yeah.
Because a knife is, that thing, by the way, is as good as a surgeon's scalpel, the one that you would get in hospital.
Yeah.
It's even sharper.
Yeah.
But normally it subjects you to lots of pain. And therefore, we are saying that a person must really be prepared,
Yeah.
so that they do not embarrass the family. Bahona kaluya tawe.
Like that, at that point, you guys are just looking at the family, you're not looking at the boy.
No, the boy gave himself up for circumcision.
Okay.
And let me repeat this. The boy is not being molested. The boy grows up within a community and he sees this thing being done to other people. It's him who makes the decision
That I'm
that
ready.
he wants to undergo the ritual.
Wow.
If he feels he's not ready, then hospitals are there. He'll be taken to hospital. But I have seen children who even run away from home just because the parents suggested that they'll be taken to hospital.
Wow.
They like it when they are considered heroic. Everybody wants to be a hero. And you see, in the olden times,
Yeah.
we considered people who withstood the pain of the knife as heroes.
Wow.
Nobody wants to walk around and they are referred to as cowards.
Daktari, I'm also meant to understand, well, I come from Bukusu culture, so I've witnessed some of this.
Yes.
So I'm meant to understand women are not allowed around that period, especially if the son is coming from Jandoni, is it Kwamuto?
Yes.
When he's coming home, women are not allowed around her.
No.
Then
Our circumcision system, unlike what happens among the Maasai
Yeah.
and the Kalenjins,
Yeah.
ours invites everybody.
Oh, really?
It's the mother
Yeah.
who, every time this boy comes home from inviting visitors,
Yeah.
who ululates? It's the mother. The day he comes from the river, he is normally met at the gate by his aunt
Okay.
with a cooking stick dipped in some sweet beer.
Okay.
He should lick. It has significance. From who? The aunt. Now, the significance is you are teaching this young man
Yeah.
that his life will be a life governed by women. And you know, women, the Bukusu consider it an abomination
Yeah.
if you don't marry.
Okay.
In fact, you will not be buried normally. We will open a path through the wall.
Yes.
It's called Kwandi Yangu.
Yes.
If you died without getting married. Now, the why we insist that women must be around, we are basically preparing this young man to know how to live with women. And the first woman that they get to know is the aunt.
Yeah.
And of course, the term know is really loaded. An aunt is the one who even determines whether the boy is normal or not. You know, normal in our sense is that you must be in a position to get children, to beget children. That is the primary thing. That is the reason circumcision is centered around the private parts. Because later on, you will make use of them for the continuance of the community. Without that continuation, then you see we are doomed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Daktari, allow me to cut you short.
Yes.
There's some of us, when we hear that song in the morning,
Yes.
even if we are sleeping, we'll just wake up.
Yes.
Is it spiritual?
Well, I don't know why you are calling it spiritual, but there is nothing wrong in being spiritual about your own culture. Our culture is in us, and it doesn't matter how much you base. It doesn't matter how foreign you become. You know, you belong to a clan. You belong to an ancestry. Something that we have not determined for some of us is that we never know where our great-great-grandmothers came from. Our great-great-grandfathers came from. Chances are, in that lineage, there was a ritual surgeon. And therefore, why you tremble when you hear that song is just because you have that blood. So it's very normal.
Yeah.
In many of us, we may not be circumcised as ritual surgeons, but once you hear that song and you are a Bukusu, you will wake up and run and follow. And you only come back to your senses when the cut is done. And you start asking yourself, why did I even come
Where
there?
am
Because
I?
normally the cut doesn't take more than... I have seen a gentleman who does the cut in a maximum of 3 seconds.
3 seconds.
He's done. So you see, you took a whole day singing and dancing, doing all manner of things just for that cut. That tells you that our interest is not just in the cut. Our interest is the many things that happen, the culmination before the cut.
Wow.
Yes.
Daktari, thank you so much for the insightful lessons. As we always say on this show, is we learn every day, and we personally embrace culture because we are Africa and Africa is us.
Yes.
So thank you so much for gracing our My Safe Space with wisdom today. Maybe as we just finish up, your last word to the generation that is being circumcised this year. This is your camera.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, culture dies hard. There are people who think that this culture is being eroded and one time it will go away. I've just been watching a clip this morning of what happens during the Imbalu ceremony in Gishu land, Masaba land in Uganda.
Yes.
It is a big carnival. It is something that people enjoy, that people celebrate.
Yeah.
It could even be a tourist attraction. When you go to the Caribbean, Grenada, Tobago, Jamaica, Cuba, these are people who hold street carnivals.
Yes. Yeah, true.
Celebrations within their communities.
Yeah.
If we imagine that we are living in a society where we will spend all our time be in front of a TV
Yeah.
or a laptop
Yeah.
or with a phone,
Yeah.
we are doomed. It is the socialization that comes out of circumcision that is most important. People become antisocial if they are loners.
True.
When you are an individual with a novel from Monday to Tuesday, you become a recluse. You become somebody who is antisocial. But circumcision is something that we are celebrating and we will continue celebrating. The few who break off and take the European path will still come back, because I see them, once they take their children to hospital, they still come back and do the other rituals.
The December one.
Hulicha, Huvita, you get.
Yeah.
And you see that is still, you cannot tell us that you are not into culture, yet Olichilomwana or Vichilomwana, So we are there and we are still there. And I want to encourage people to embrace it. Maybe one last thing that I would like to say is that we are avoiding this thing because we are poor. At one time, the Bukusu was so rich, they had animals. These days, some people don't even have animals.
True.
But we are also willing to spend 100,000 on a birthday party, which happens annually. But when you ask someone to spend 20,000 buying an animal so that they can feed people in August, they say that is being a spendthrift or being wasteful.
True.
Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Daktari. Today I'm going home with wisdom on my culture, the Bukusu culture. Of course, I'm proudly a Bukusu lady from Bungoma County. Thank you so much for watching Number One TV and my safe space on our YouTube channel. Make sure if you have not subscribed to a Number One TV YouTube channel and my safe space on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, like, leave a comment. And guys, I'm willing to do circumcision content this August. So if your homestead is having sherehe ya kukula, call me. Thank you so much. See you in the next one.